Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Cynthia Are. Let's talk now about everyone's favorite subject, money. The Naira's value has been bouncing back, so Bosun Amofaye, head of our channel's business desk, is here to tell us how things have been going with the Naira. Welcome, Bosun, to Africa 54.
Thank you very much, Cynthia.
Now, is this a short-lived glory, or is this going to last for a long time?
Well, currency management is always a continuous process, but we're coming from a very precipitous slide over a one-year period, and the central bank has introduced a number of measures to make sure that the Naira becomes more usable rather than dollar in the local market, because we don't print dollars in Nigeria. Naira is not convertible. The US dollar is not Nigeria's currency for use in the country, even though it's acceptable by some vendors. So the central bank has therefore moved very quickly to rein in the volume of US dollars in circulation and let the country use more of the local currency in transactions. So that had been the basis for which you've seen the Naira recovering. And part of these measures include shutting down the bureau de change from the currencies market, banning some items from the currencies market for import, as well as stop the daily a sale of currencies to other users as well, allow other manufacturers to go into the autonomous market to source currencies for themselves. You've seen the ban on domiciliary accounts and a few things like that. So a number of measures, almost one day at a time, over the last 1 year, 1.5 years, have helped the Naira to start recovering very gently. Again, some folks believe that, look, we've reached the bottom, that the Naira is not likely to go through the 200, 300, 400 window to 500, perhaps 1,000 parity with the US dollar, and that has so far been achieved. So the central bank has been able to achieve quite a bit of success, but again, all eyes is on March 23rd to 24th monetary policy meeting, in which the central bank is expected to take some specific measures, further measures, to make sure that the currency gets a lot healthier.
But why did these measures that you're talking about, why did they have to wait until things got to this stage? Why couldn't they be nipped in the bud?
Well, you had both domestic and global headwinds against the Naira. You had the country's major foreign exchange earner, which was crude oil, accounting for about 95% of the country's foreign exchange, sharply down to about $30 a barrel. So we're short in that. We're not very strong in terms of industrial goods export. We have a bit of services, but that was not based on local industrialization. We have down sales deficit in infrastructure. So basically, we're just trading as a country. We therefore need to move from being a trading country to an industrial country. And that's when you're industrialized. You have exports that will fetch you stronger currencies, the euro, the dollar, the pound. Then when you do conversion, it helps the local manufacturers get better. So if you allow a bit of a weakening in your currency, then that will be a lot good for domestic manufacturers. But at the moment, when we're just importing massively, using very scarce dollar resources from oil that is also dwindling in prices, very volatile to the downside, then you're in a zero-sum game. You therefore need to rebalance things very quickly, reduce the quantity of dollars and the demand for dollars in your economy, and allow the Naira to become the currency of choice. Once you allow that to happen, you begin to see a bit of a recovery, a gentle to the upside. But the government at the center needs to move very quickly, which is ramp up budgetary spending to allow manufacturing, industrial activities to move up very quickly, so that we can begin to optimize the healthy recovery that we have of the Naira and the reduction in the dollar exposure that the country currently has.
Bosun, as quickly as you can you just tell us what regular Nigerians can also do to help the Naira remain stable?
I think we need to also streamline our consumption pattern. We need to patronize more made-in-Nigerian goods. We've been exposed to imported goods and services for several decades. So the ordinary Nigerians would also need to be part of this Naira recovery reform agenda of the government, because it's not enough for the government via the central bank and the fiscal authorities to do their part without the people themselves trying to rein in some of this. We also need to do quite a lot at the home front. We need to begin to look at our educational system, patronize our local hospitals, patronize other local services, so that we will be able to also help the Naira recovery. Because as long as some of these processes are not taken both at the at national level and at the domestic level, from breakfast to dinner table. If we don't do our own part, if we don't patronize consumer Nigerians, they will become more part of the problem, and we just keep blaming the government to fix the problem. So this is fixable. This can be done, and I think this is the right time to start.
Obosina Mafai, head of our Channels TV business desk. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa 54. Now, staying on the subject of money, on March the 1st, consumer rights groups asked Nigerians to boycott banks and electronic bank services in protest of what they say are excessive consumer charges. Channels business news correspondent Temple Ashaju has that story.
There are 22 commercial banks in Nigeria with about 30 million customer accounts. The services rendered by these financial institutions come with various fees across board. Some of these charges include card and account maintenance fees, SMS charge, ATM withdrawal fee, and the latest stamp duties, among others. Led by some rights organizations, Nigerians displeased with these charges set aside March the 1st to protest banking fees. But how did this course of action play out?
But it's like what I observed is that there was no enough publicity. That, like I was not aware.
The charges is too much. Here and there, the charges, we debit you on the withdrawals and then debit you on any transaction.
We've opened normally to customers and we have been working unhindered since morning. And as you can see, the environment is peaceful, all over across the state.
There is no gainsaying that the banks are one of the major drivers of liquidity in the Nigerian financial system. But the mantra of charges seems to be one trend that is putting off a lot of bank depositors, one that has given birth to the No Banking Day course put together by an NGO. Mrs. Shola Salako is the leader of the No Banking Day protest. She claims her rally recorded 60% rate of compliance.
We feel that compliance was way above 60% from the ones that we have gotten back now. There's some parts of Nigeria that we get reports that they were not even aware, and we're not surprised because we couldn't have reached all of Nigeria. The only place we'd be able to reach all of Nigeria was through the social media, and that can be limited.
On the contrary, analysts believe that Mrs. Salako's rallying call has no firm footing.
I mean, if you look at how integrated the business community is with the fact that we need finance to run business, if that has to work, then we have to shut down businesses for the whole day.
The No Banking Day agitation may have come and gone, but it appears more banks had more transactions than they did on Friday, as salaries are paid and workers making withdrawals. Temple Ashaju, Channels Television News.
Well, it's time now for a short break, but still to come on Africa 54. Our wonderful continent is home to some of the world's fastest growing economies, and when you consider the tourism, food and culture that Africa provides, it's no wonder why. We'll have that story after the break.
Every day you invite us to your home. Now, we invite you to our homepage. Join Channels Television on social media. Hang out with us on Google+/Channels Television. Follow us on Twitter @Channels TV. Friend us on Facebook.com/Channels Forum. And don't forget to like our page. That's not all. Subscribe to our YouTube channels, youtube.com/Channels Web. To get constant video updates and news and events in Nigeria and around the world. ChannelsTV.com. The news at your fingertips.
Welcome back to Africa 54. The African continent boasts of some of the world's fastest growing economies. Tourism, abundant natural resources, food, culture, and a growing middle class are some of the reasons why. VOA Pondiho has more.
Africa's narrative is changing. Many economists say in 2016, sub-Saharan Africa's GDP is expected to grow at 4.5%, making it the fastest growing economic zone in the world. As a result, many international firms are setting up local and regional operations. Tourism on the continent is said to spur more economic growth and directly employ more than 7 million people by 2021, according to a World Bank report. Another study titled Millionaire Tourism in Africa says that around 43,000 multi-millionaires visited Africa. South Africa was the most visited destination for the super rich. Other destinations include Nairobi, Kenya, Masai Mara in Kenya, the Serengeti in Tanzania, gorilla safaris in Windy Forest, and Bujagari Falls in Uganda, Victoria Falls in both Zimbabwe and Zambia. The UK-based World Travel and Tourism Council says the influx of tourists means more money coming into the continent, accounting for nearly $50 billion in revenue in 2015. The continent prides itself of having the best land for exploring real beauty. For example, African mountains, savannas, and rivers are by far the natural assets found on the continent. The hospitality sector is experiencing unusual rapid growth. According to the report, Sub-Saharan Africa is benefiting most from the expansion of hotel chains and the corresponding increase in the number of available rooms. The vast continent is so rich and diverse in its culture. This is not from one country to another, but within individual countries, where many different cultures can be found. Africans are rocking the fashion runaways in New York, Paris, London, and primarily promoting Africa's fashion industry. Perhaps even more importantly, Nigeria's Nollywood film industry is rising in popularity. It's a $5 billion industry churning out nearly 3,000 movies each year. Since its inception over 20 years ago, the Nigerian movie industry has remained one of the largest employers in the country. We certainly cannot talk about Africa's beauty without talking about music, which is very much a part of the continent's culture. If you're passionate about African food, then you have something in common with a lot of Africans. They are passionate about making Africa's mouth-watering food locally and even continental dishes that has earned them the title of the best cooks in the world. Paul Ndiho, VOA News.
Well, and that's our show for today. You can watch Africa 54 throughout the week on VOA website. Just go to voaafrica.com, and for more radio news, tune into Africa News tonight at 1800 UTC.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Cynthia Are at Channels TV Nigeria. Until next time, have a good night.